Hey, all right, welcome to Open House 101, How to Make 100K with Open Houses. I'm your host, Bowtie Ben. Glad you're all here. Let's get it started. As we go throughout the class, if you have any questions, please just answer. No, please just ask. And please answer the question that you've already asked. Ask one of the things with this course, we do have it set for 2 hours. It may take 2 hours, it may take an hour and a half, it may take an hour. And that's all just going to be dependent on the conversation and the questions. Okay? So, here's our agenda for the class today. We're going to talk about everything that happens before the open house, all that prep work. We're going to talk about what happens during the day, and then we're going to talk about everything that happens after. I really want you to think about an open house like a cake, okay? And we're going to call it like a 2-layer cake. So when you think about a cake, right, it's got its layers, it's got some frosting in the middle, and then it's covered with frosting, right? And then maybe you've got some sprinkles on top or some little extra decals. The open house, just standing there at the open, is only the frosting. It's not the substance. So if you think about it, just standing there, being at the open house is not the main thing that's going to get you business. It's everything around it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. And then we'll open it up for any questions at the end. And yet, please, if you have questions, ask. Okay. So I always like to do this little slide of who am I? Why do I get to teach this class? Because I think it helps build a little bit of credibility. So obviously, some of you know who I am, hopefully by this point. Bowtie Ben, been in real estate for 7 years. And why do I teach this class? That's a really big one for me. And it's the open houses are how I built my business. I loved open houses. I was doing 2 to 3 a week for my first few years. And we knew my first year that was a bad year. And yet my second year, which was my real first year, this is how I got about 3/4 of my business that year. And it was all through consistency. Then what I did is I went to a big conference called Family Reunion, and it's the biggest Keller Williams conference that we have every year. And I was speaking with one of the coaches there, and I said, "Hey, I want to close 24 homes this year." And they said, "Well, that's great. I love it." And they're, "How are you going to do it?" "Well, I don't know. I really love open houses." And she looked at me and she says, "Okay, I'm going to challenge you. I want you to find 23 people who have closed 24 or more homes in a year just through open houses." And that's what I did. I found 3 people who'd done it, and I took their systems and I R&D'd it. And I adjusted it to fit a little bit of my style, and yet I took a lot of those systems and models, I took that structure, and that's where I kept building on it. The reality is we don't need to reinvent that wheel. The wheel is there, and now we can attune it, we can make it look a little prettier, put some lights in there because that's going to make it a little cool for us. And yet, if you take those models and systems, that's where you're going to find success. So that's why I teach this class, because I've learned from some of the best people who have done open houses. I myself have done many great open houses. And I'm going to tell some stories about where I've gone wrong with open houses too, so that you don't have to make my mistakes. So that's who I am. Now, we're going to talk about some limiting beliefs around open houses. First off, a limiting belief. It's something where you're telling yourself something one way or another, and it's that little voice in the back of your head, "You can't do it," or whatever it is. Sometimes we call it the drunk monkey, not the drunk money. And that's an old term that we used to use, and it's that monkey in the back of your head, right? So the first one that I like to talk about is I don't have a listing to hold. So this is a really interesting one. Hey, I don't have any listings, so I can't hold an open house. Has that gone through anybody's mind up to this point? Yeah, that's totally understandable. I don't have a listing. What am I going to do? Well, we're going to go a little bit deeper into this, and yet the way around this is you just hold open houses for other people, other companies. Anybody who has a listing, you can hold it. My first year, I had 0 listings. Well, my first real year, I had 0 listings. I held 138 open houses that year, all through other people. Number 2, I don't have signs. I don't have listing signs, open house signs. This one's real easy. I bought 200 open house signs so that all my agents could use them. So we have a sign out sheet, and that way you don't have to go and buy signs. There's other things that you can do if you want to have your own, and yet, once again, don't spend money if you don't have to. there's a little caveat with that, and is, if you break or damage or lose, or maybe something gets stolen, yes, we do ask that you replace them. We can put it on your next office bill. And that being said, though, utilize what we have so you don't have to go and spend a ton of money that you haven't made yet in the business. Okay. And then as you start to make money, you can slowly start to buy some of your own if you decide you want to stick with open houses. Third, I may not know the answers to the questions visitors have. This is probably the number. All right, are we back? Yeah. If that happens again, just do the same thing and we'll swap mics. I don't know if we charged them. So you'll never know everything, right? And Cassie, can you hear me
No, I can.
now? Yes?
Yeah, I can. Am I too loud?
Nope, you're great.
Okay.
Cool. So, as long as you're okay with that answer, you're going to be fine. People are going to come into the house. You may not know everything about the house. Once again, that's okay. You're not the listing agent. You can pull anything you want off the multiple listing service, and as long as you're willing to find out, you're set. Okay? Open houses don't really work because people just look online. Statistically, we have found that people want that personal touch. Yes, going online and buying something is nice. Sometimes you can return it, and yet people want to see, they want to touch, they want to hear, they want that human interaction. And that's how we continue to work, because we want that interaction. Open houses absolutely work. The amount of agents you'll talk to that say, yeah, I built my systems, my business off of open houses is huge. It's one of the cheapest ways to really build your business. Next one, I won't feel safe. The biggest answer to this is bringing somebody with you. We're going to talk more about this a little bit later, but the best way to feel safe is don't do it alone. And generally, I don't recommend anybody do an open house alone, because we don't know who's walking through the open houses. So bring someone with you, whether it's another agent or other people. Like I said, we're going to talk more about that. So before we continue, is there anything that's standing out in the back of your mind of, I am worried about X, Y, and Z around open houses, or any kind of limiting belief that you have? Cassie, anything from you?
I think the big one that I've had, you've already hit. It was just like not knowing the answer, like flustered in the moment when that happens.
Absolutely, that totally makes sense. And the biggest thing is just being willing to work through it. And most people are okay with the answer, I don't know, but I'll find out. So I appreciate you sharing that. And if you think of anything else as we go through, hey, you know what, Ben, I just thought about this limiting belief, and let's overcome it together. Yep. So let's talk about open houses. Who benefits from an open house? Well, for starters, the sellers benefit. Why do the sellers benefit?
Try to get a potential buyer.
Helping them try to get a potential buyer. Absolutely. Why else?
Bringing attention to their house.
Totally. Bringing attention to their open house, or bringing attention to their listing. Yeah. Why else? A lot of sellers may not do open houses. Absolutely. It just brings in attention, brings in traffic. It helps market that property. Next person that benefits are buyers. Buyers benefit. They can go see a house, no strings attached. Hey, I can go with an agent, without an agent. Let's me just walk through a house, right? Starters, does anybody here just like walking through houses, especially ones that are not their own? Yeah, that's why we're in real estate, right? So we like going through houses. Houses are cool. HGTV, it's calling me tomorrow. Buyers benefit. Also, the other reason they benefit is they get to meet you, this great agent, if they don't have one. The neighbors. Why might the neighbors benefit?
To get to see what upgrades that they made in case they're thinking about one day selling their house, like how to compare their own house.
Absolutely. And what was just said is they can see upgrades if they want, in case they want to see their house, they can see what other houses are selling for and get really compare that to their house in the neighborhood. Why else might they benefit?
Maybe they've been thinking about selling their house too.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And then, of course, the next person that benefits is you, the agent, right? You're building your business. You're potentially getting clients. You're growing your abilities. Okay. So let's talk about the benefits of open houses. First off, open houses are incredibly inexpensive, right? You can do these for very cheap, and especially if you don't have to purchase any signs. So let's talk about expenses. Hey, if I want to have flyers, well, I get to print out flyers, and there's a little bit of a cost around that. Let's just say print out 15 flyers. All right, 5 cents, 7 cents a flyer. Spend a buck, right? And then, maybe I want to do an ad. Okay, well, I'll do an ad, and that's going to cost me 15 to 30. Well, now we're at 33. And, maybe I want to have some bottles of water there. Okay, well, a pack of water bottles is like $5, so it cost me 36, and that pack's going to last me a while probably, because even if I have a ton of people through, not everybody wants a water bottle, and I may not even want water. The only other expensive thing that could happen, and happens as you start doing more and more, is I actually like to do sometimes mailers for my open house, and that's one of the higher expense things. And yet, even if I spent, let's just say, $200 on an open house, I need one buyer from that open house to close, and I've paid for 10, right? The next thing is a great prospecting tool, because remember I talked about the substance, right? You've got all this other piece, the different layers of the cake that are going to happen around this that's also going to help you prospect and get business. Then, of course, if I spend $200 and I got one buyer and they closed, well, that's a huge return on investment. And if I didn't spend 200, I spent 35 because I did an ad. Well, it's an even higher. If I just spent $5 for my flyers, great. Now, as I start to get signs, maybe I'll counter that against my open houses. And yet, you only have to buy signs once and then replacements every now and then. It's a huge return on investment, and it's a great way to get qualified leads. Does that make sense? Great. So we're going to talk about the goal and the 4 different types of business, but I'd love someone to read this quote. Raise your hand and I'll give you the mic. Or Cassie, you can come up and mute if you would like to. All right.
Nothing else about your business will have as big an impact on it as the number of leads.
Exactly. I think this is a huge thing. The number one way to help any problem that you have in real estate is just lead generating, getting more leads. Okay, so let's talk about the goal of every open house. So first off, first goal for every open house is to generate now and future business. This one's a huge thing because somebody you meet in an open house, they may not be buying today. They might be buying 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, a year from today. And yet, who still plans to be in business 1 year from today? Do we still want to help someone even if they're buying 1 year from now? Absolutely. I had one of my clients who I met in an open house, and this is not one of my proudest moments, and yet we bought a year and a half later. We also looked at 132 houses in that year. That was as a story for another day, and yet they bought a year later. I had another client. I met him at this open house. He bought with me, and then he sold with me, and then he sold with me again. So that's still now and 2 pieces of future business. That's the goal. The other goal is for every open house, I want to add 2 people to my database. That's it. For every open house, I want to get 2 people added to my database. Just because I add them doesn't mean that maybe they're a buyer right now or a seller right now, but I want to generate at least 2 people into my database. Okay. Now, we have 4 different types of leads. What do you think they are? Well, apparently I'm giving you 1. What are the other 3?
Sellers?
Okay, what kind of sellers? Use your context clues. Now buyers.
Future.
Future sellers, great. Now sellers. Future buyers, future sellers. Anybody who walks in as one of these 4 different types of leads. Now buyer, now seller, future buyer, future seller. And that's it. This is our goal. It's nothing complicated. I want to get business. I want to add 2 people to my database, and of those 2, they're going to be either now buyers, now sellers, future buyers, or future sellers. That's it. So let's talk about that. We're going to talk about the plan. So before an open house, we have a plan. Now, one of the big things that I sometimes will hear from agents is, I don't have time to execute the full plan. And that's fine. And I'll say if your choice is to do none of it and do just one part, or I'm sorry, to do maybe just 1 or 2 parts, or do none of it and not do open houses, I'd say, yeah, pick a few parts. And yet, as you start to grow your business and you decide, okay, I want this to be one of my big things, know that there's a plan and you want to follow these steps as much as possible. So one of the things we have is we have a 7-day open house plan. So day 1, and I call it 5 to 7. Day 1 is we're picking an open house. So I'm picking my open houses 5 to 7 days before the open house itself. Day 1, we're going to pick that open house. Day 2, we're going to have it posted online. Make sure it's put in the multiple listing service. We're going to obtain a call list. And if I'm doing mailers, I'm going to mail invitations. Day 3, we're going to, once again, make sure it's posted online. And then we're going to start calling neighbors. And then I'm going to place a sign in the yard. And the sign just says open house, and I'll have date and time. Now, the reason why I say it's 5 to 7 days is in reality, these 3 days could be all bundled into one. And the more time you can give yourself, the more time you can to prepare, the more time you can push yourself out there. Day 4, once again, make sure it's posted online. We're going to continue calling neighbors. We're going to invite database tags. And I'm going to explain this a little bit more later, and yet we're going to start making sure we're reaching out to certain people that are in our database. We're going to, any sign calls that we get, we're going to start calling. And if we're doing an ad, we're going to start calling. We're going to email these internet leads, call these internet leads. Day 5, we're going to still make sure that it's posted online. Then we're going to do a social media post, something big on social media, and then we're going to start preparing market stats and comps and other materials for the property. Day 6, we're going to do another social media post, and then we're going to door knock 25 doors in each direction of the open house. So 25 to the east, 25 to the west, north, south, whatever it is in that neighborhood. And you can always do more. I will tell you, the more doors, the better. And yet I'm going to door knock at least 25 doors. And then we're going to invite potentially key sphere members, people in our sphere of influence. Day 7, if we haven't, we'll complete our door knocking. We're going to do a social media post. My biggest recommendation for this is a social media live post at the open house. And then we're going to place our directionals. The biggest thing on this is anybody who really wants to put the full effort into open houses, and like I said with the caveat, if my choice is none of it or maybe just 1 or 2, great, start where you can. And yet you got to look at this as a plan. Sometimes agents will look at this as a menu. I want a little bit of number 7, a number 5, and a number 3, right? We have to look at it as a plan, a system, not a menu. Talk about those models and systems. This is the model. Then you get to put your creativity on top of it. Start where you're able to and continue to build as well. Okay? What questions do you have about the plan as a whole? Okay. Let's keep going. So as we talk about before in preparation, we're going to talk about location. The difference between big and really big is how you manage your time and focus. Gary Keller. This one's huge because once again, we all have the most valuable resource, which is time. How we manage our time and focus defines how big our business will be. Okay? So where are we doing it? Well, what neighborhoods do I want to focus on? Is there a neighborhood I'm farming? Is there a neighborhood that's close to me? Is there a space I want to be in? What are the price points? I'm looking for a $500,000 buyer, I might not want to be doing an open house at 300,000 or even 800. That doesn't mean that one of those might not come by your open house, and yet look at the price point. What are some of the, maybe look at what are the turnover ratios? How often are homes selling in this neighborhood? Does Keller Williams, or is there a company that has a huge market share in this area? You can look at these kind of statistics. The next piece of this, though, is where am I going to find it, right? How am I finding my open house? Well, the first place is go to the multiple listing service. Go into the multiple listing service, find that neighborhood that really works for you, and just start calling. I find it works really well if you search on the multiple listing service by vacant homes, because I find a lot of times agents are more willing to let you do an open house if it's vacant than if it's lived in. So that can make a bit of a difference. You go in there and then you have a quick phone call. And the phone call goes something like this. Hello, agent. My name is Bowtie Bannon with Keller Williams Preferred Realty. I saw that you have this listing over at 123 Main Street, and I was wanting to see if you were planning to have an open house on it. Yes, no. If they say no, fantastic. Well, I wanted to ask if you would be open to having an agent hold an open house for you. Oh, well, yeah, maybe. Yes, great. Well, I do want to let you know that I set an expectation with all my agents that I will be holding it this Saturday from 11 to 2. And even if it still goes under contract, I'll still be holding it because of all my time, effort, and even money that I've put into hosting this open house. Do you have any issues with that? No. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I plan on holding it this day and time. Will that work for you? Great. Thank you. Have a great day. Sometimes you'll get it on the first call, and sometimes you'll get it on the 50th. You get to go and pick, though. Find the ones that you want to hold. Just because it's a new listing doesn't mean it's a good open house to hold. What's a good open house is depending on what you're looking for. How's the traffic around it? Are there main roads? How deep into a neighborhood is somebody going to have to drive? If I have to make 20 turns in a neighborhood, am I really going to spend the time to find that? Maybe, maybe not. If I'm way out east, well, is there a lot of people driving by there? So look at what's going to be the busy roads that I can focus on. The next place is our KW office, right? Hey, who posts on the Facebook page? You'll see people post on the Facebook page. Hey, I'm looking for someone to hold an open house for me at 123 Main Street this Saturday. The one caveat, a lot of times those posts are coming out on Thursday or Friday. If I want to hold it for Saturday, Thursday or Friday, is that going to give me enough time to do my full plan? No. And yet if I don't have one, and my choice is to not do the full plan or not do an open house, what do you think I'm going to say? Yes, do the open house. Exactly. So if your choice is to not do the full plan or not do the open house, we'll do the open house and not do the full plan. That's okay. And yet the more you can plan, the more you can prepare, the better they're going to be. Okay. What questions do you have about location? Okay. Let's keep it going. Let's talk about timing. So my favorite question I get is, Ben, when is the best time to hold an open house? What do you think?
Weekends?
Heard weekends. Okay. I like that answer. What else? What do you think might be the best time? Afternoon. Sure, sure. What else might be the best time? What was that?
Maybe anytime.
Yeah, that is the correct answer. The correct answer is anytime. I hear this all the time. Well, Ben, when's the best time to hold the open house? And the answer to this, and it may seem like a cop-out, but the answer is when you're doing it. And I have statistics to back this up. When I was doing open houses, I was doing them Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 2. Twice a week. I was doing it every week, 11 to 2, Saturday, Sunday. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm seeing as much on the 11 to 2. I'm going to do it 12 to 2 now. So I started doing 12 to 2, Saturday and Sunday. And then I decided, you know what, my Sunday open houses, they're not great. I'm only doing them Saturdays 12 to 2. And that's what I did for a long time. And then fast forward a couple of years, I had an agent come up to me and be like, Ben, I'm never doing a Saturday open house again, but I'm doing them every Sunday. I said, okay, why? Well, my Saturdays are dead, but my Sundays are booming. It's fantastic. Keep doing them on Sundays. And then I had an agent come to me and say, Ben, I'm never doing an open house on a weekend again. I said, okay, tell me why. They said, well, Saturdays and Sundays, they were always dead, and I never really had a lot of people. But boy, I was doing them on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I was getting so many people. So the best time is when you're doing it, and when you're doing it consistently. I can't do one on a Wednesday and nobody show up and be like, all right, Wednesdays don't work. You're going to have open houses that have nobody come through. And that's part of the consistency. You're going to have open houses where you have 3 people, open houses where you have 30 people, right? You're going to have different flows, and yet you have to be consistent. If I know that I'm not going to be able to do open houses on the weekend, great. Well, I know that I get off work at 5 o'clock, so I guess I'm doing my open houses from 6 to 8 on Wednesdays. Right? Do what's going to work for you, and then where you can be consistent. Okay, so let's talk about other times. What are times? Well, lunch times, right? Hey, when are people going around? They're moving around. Well, what about commute times? What are commute times? What if I did an open house Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.? When are people driving around? What about garage sailors? Has anybody here been garage sailing or seen people who do? What time are they out? Out at like 6:37. So what if I did an open house that was Saturday and Sunday, 6:30 to 8:30? Right? Know what's going on in the communities. Well, we also have school drop-off and pickup. Well, some of my favorite open houses were on a weekday right after school, 3:30 to 5:30. Get people coming through. Now, sometimes you get some extra kids in that. Okay, great. And yet, people are in there. Well, what about drop-off times? Once again, they're getting dropped off between 7:30 and 9. So I did an open house, 7:30 to 9. You're going to get people through because they're in that area, right? Garage sales. I was too early on the garage sales. And yet, these are times when people are moving around and about. Any other ideas of what might be good times for doing open houses?
I was gonna say if a neighborhood's having a community event, like our neighborhood will do like an Easter egg hunt on a Sunday or a Saturday, somewhere close to Easter. So when people are already out doing that.
Love that. Yeah, when are the community events in the neighborhoods? What are days that people are just out and about? And remember staying consistent. I will tell you the agents who were doing open houses 2 weeks ago, when it was -12, they may not have gotten as many people, yet those habits being consistent are what's going to show up in the long run. So I loved that. That was great, Cassie. And it's just thinking about what are the creative times that I can be out. Okay? What questions do you have about timing? Okay. Let's talk about some of the activities that happen beforehand. So I talked about the cake model and everything that kind of goes into that cake. So first off, like I said, you can do mailers. Okay. So with the mailers, you send them out. If you're going to send out mailers, you got to send them out on day 1 because you want to get them to get there before the open house. So if I've got an open house on Saturday, the latest I probably want to send out mailers is Tuesday. If I send it out much later, then they're probably not getting there. And the mailer probably looks like this. Hey, this neighbor wants to invite you to their open house, 123 Main Street on date and time. And so it's a great option. And yet that's one of those expenses. So maybe that's something you start to do later. Next thing, circle calling. So circle calling is you pick a point on a map, you get a radius around it, and then you start calling people around that. It's essentially a cold call, but it's a little bit different, and it goes something like this. Ring, ring, hello. Hi, my name is Ben Grodsky, Bow Tie Ben with Keller Williams, and I'm calling to invite you to my open house over at 123 Main Street Saturday from 12 to 2. Think you might be able to stop by? Yes, no. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll be able to see you there. One of the fun things, open houses are a great way to pick your neighbor. If you might know anybody who's looking to move in the area. Who do you know that might be looking to move the area that I could invite to this open house? Nobody, somebody. Great. I'd love their information, or thank you for taking a moment to think about that. And then I do this. I just have a couple more questions and I'll let you go. First off, if you, a friend, family member, were ever looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, do you have a realtor you'd refer them to? Yes, no. Fantastic. I'd love to be that person for you. Or great. It's always important to have representation. And I'd like to be your number 2. And don't worry, I've got this full script written out for you somewhere in the drive. And then they say, yes, no, I get there. Hey, because I want you to be part of my client appreciation program, what's your email? Well, I already have their phone number, so I need to ask their phone number. I already have their address, and now I've got 4 of the 5 points of contact. Thank you so much. Last question, I'll let you go. Who do you know that's got a real estate goal in 2024 that I can help. Nobody. Thank you so much. Have a great day. That's a 5-minute conversation. And yet I asked for a referral 3 times. I got their information. Now I've added them into my database. That's person number 1. Next one, door knocking. Door knocking for that open house. Now, here's the great thing. That script for door knocking sounds almost identical to the circle calling script. Knock, knock, knock. Into that script, the only thing that's missing is they don't have their phone number now. So hey, because I want to, in case we have any other events that I want to invite you to, what's your phone number so that I can invite you to other events as well as when we have other open houses? Great. Well, I've got their address because I'm literally standing at their house. I've got their name, most likely, because that should have come up in the conversation. Hopefully I've gotten their email. Hopefully I've gotten their phone. As long as I've gotten at least one of those, I can still follow up with them. When I door knock, I'll send them a card afterwards. Okay? Door knocking. Great way to add people into your database. Facebook ads or social media ads. So Instagram, Twitter, TikTok is not something you can do ads on for open houses. Okay? Great opportunity. These are all the activities that kind of work together to help you as you start to prepare for the open house. Final prep work before the open house is, first thing, as I like to create a map. So I like to look at Google Maps and kind of create a generalized map of where I want to put my signs, my directionals. Okay, I want to schedule showings for properties. So here's what that means. I know that my open house is from 12 to 2 on Saturday. I'm going to schedule 2 showings for properties that are in the neighborhood or close by. One that's a little bit bigger and one that's maybe a little bit smaller. And then when somebody comes through and says, hey, you know what? I don't really like this house. I can say, okay, well, that's fantastic. What are you doing at 2? Because I have another showing scheduled for a property close by here that's a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, depending on what they're looking for. Show them that property. I schedule 2 showings. Then I create an open house kit. And once again, don't worry about writing this. You have access to this whole PowerPoint. But here's some example items. Sign-in sheets, doors, sign to say come in, snapshots, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, wet wipes, pens, home buyer guides, home seller guides, and then MLS sheets that are branded to that house. So all of the things that are the final prep work for the open house. So this is everything that goes in before. What questions do you have about everything that happens before? Great. Let's talk about the day of. We're going to talk about setup. The first thing that happens with setup is we have to put out our sign the morning of. So how many signs do you think that I recommend for somebody to put out for an open house at a minimum? Okay, 15. You're getting close. There we are. So I recommend generally 20 signs. Now, this is once again, sometimes I hear that, well, I don't want to do open houses because I have to put out 20 signs. Once again, if your choice is put out 1 sign and do an open house or don't do an open house because you don't want to put out signs, put out 1. And yet build those habits. And I will tell you the more signs, the better. And I'm going to tell you, here's why 20. Okay. So I want you to take a look at this poorly drawn map. And we're going to say that our open house is right over here, okay, in this neighborhood. This is the main road. And what I do is I actually start putting out signs 3 intersections before. So if this is, we're going to call this Pecos right here. And at Pecos, my open house is right over here. Well, I'm going to start it 3 lights before. I'm going to put 3 signs in each of those. And here's why. So if I have somebody coming through and they're driving and they see open house signs that is just, hey, turn here at Pecos. Well, if I'm driving, I see signs turn here at Pecos. It's like, oh, open house. Oh, but I missed it. Now, if I start this 3 intersections before, now I'm driving and I see, oh, hey, look, some open house signs. Oh, it's this way. Oh, open house. Oh, I'm kind of looking for it. Oh, now it's time to turn. And then I can turn into the neighborhood. And generally speaking, after they turn into that neighborhood, you only need between 2 and 4 more signs to actually get them to the open house. Now, if I don't have 20 signs, well, if I could do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 or 3 more, that's like 8. Here's what I found though. I found that I can multiply how many signs I put out by 10%, and I can usually guarantee I'll get at least that many people. So if I put out 20, I know I should get at least 2 people. My second biggest open house, we're not going to talk about the first because that one was a fluke. My second biggest open house, we had 175 people come through. We put out about 100 signs. It was a great day. We sold the house that day. So I recommend 20. Here's what I can tell you. You can put out 20 signs in about 20 to 30 minutes. When I was doing open houses and I was doing 2 a week, I was putting out 65. I can put out 65 in about 30 to 45 minutes. The first time you put out 20 signs, though, it's going to take you an hour to an hour and a half because you're learning it, you're trying to figure it out. Oh, wait, no, Ben said don't step on that bar, else it'll break. So push it in, grab a little mallet, and a screwdriver to put some holes into the ground. It'll take you a while the first time, and then you'll learn how to do it a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Also, a great reason to have somebody come with you is because it can help you put out signs quicker. What questions do you have about the open house signs? Great. Let's talk about at the open. So first thing is when we're at the open, we do a little introduction. What are the 4 different types of leads we want? Now buyers, now sellers, future buyers, future sellers. Exactly. So how do we tell? How do we know? Somebody walks in and I ask them this. Hi, welcome in. Are you out shopping today or do you happen to live in the neighborhood? The way they answer this question tells us neighbor, well, they're immediate future seller. Out shopping, they're an immediate future buyer. That's simple. Hey, are you out shopping today? Do you happen to live in the neighborhood? Oh, we're out shopping, looking for houses. Great. Okay. The next important thing, you're going to hear some people call this a controversial topic, which is, oh, no, that's not that controversial topic. Well, it kind of is, but we'll get to that in a moment. Awesome. Let me give you the grand tour after they answer this question. So, are you out shopping today or do you happen to live in the neighborhood? Awesome. Let me give you the grand tour. Now, the next thing is everyone who comes in signs in. Some people say, I'm not having people sign into my open house, and that's great. But why are you there? Because you want to collect their information. You want to work with these people. Some people will say, well, I want that to happen naturally, and I want them to want to work with me. I'm going to tell you, they're going to sign in, and then they're going to want to work with me. Right? Now, what if they don't want to? What do you think my answer is? I see what you're smiling at. What do you think I'm going to say? Sure, but if they don't want to, if they don't sign in, they don't come in. Hey, I'm so sorry. If you aren't willing to sign in, I can't let you through. The other important thing is I'm not asking. There's a really polite way to do it without asking. Excuse me. Hey, per the seller's request, before we go through, I just need you to sign in here. I didn't ask. I told them I need them to sign in here. And yet, that wasn't rude. It was polite. I need you to sign in here. Well, why do I need to sign in? Hey, it's per the seller's request. Anybody who comes through has to sign in. Otherwise, unfortunately, they can't walk through. I've turned away 4 to 5 people out of thousands of open houses. And you get some people that don't want to. And here's the reality. If they weren't willing to sign in, probably didn't want to work with them anyway. They weren't worth your time. So that's okay. You're there to build your business. You're also there to potentially sell the house. And that's great too. And yet you're not going to sell the house if they're not willing to give you their information. Right? The next thing is walk everyone through. Now, if you're by yourself, I still recommend walking people through, and yet make sure you're letting them lead the way. Okay? We're going to talk about ways to show houses and help people walk through. And yet, if you're by yourself and you don't know these people, always let them kind of lead, and you kind of lead the conversation. Walk everybody through to your own safety feelings. Okay? Here's the next thing though. Walking everybody through, what happens if more than one person comes in at the same time? There's a couple ways around this. First way, bring someone with you. Okay? First way, you walk them through, they walk them through. You walk them through, they walk them through. The next thing is have a sign at the entryway and that says, hey, if nobody's here to greet you, please wait by the door. Most people follow signs. They do. We're really good at queuing up in the lines. So if nobody's there to greet you, please wait by the door. That's the other way that I find it. And if you're by yourself and you see somebody come through, you have to kind of decide, okay, well, who am I going to start walking through with? Don't switch between, because then it makes the person not feel as special. Okay. As you're walking people through, you're having conversations with them. You're using your Ford, your LP Mama, your conversations to learn about them. Building rapport, asking the questions while showing the house. There's great ways to show a house while still building rapport. Here's the primary bedroom. Here's this. Here's the bathroom. What do you think? What has you out looking today? Keep building those questions. Now, who can you bring with you to an open house? Other agents. Absolutely. Who else? Me? You could potentially, with a lot of heads up. Who else?
Friend you trust?
Absolutely. A friend you trust. Who else?
Family?
Sure. Family members. Absolutely. Your co-agents. Who else? You can bring your vendors, your lenders, your electricians, your title, your insurance, anybody. You can essentially bring anybody that you want. Now, here's the most important thing. If you bring somebody who's not an agent or licensed, they can talk material fact about the house. They can build a relationship. Yes, this is a bedroom. I personally like it. I think it's fun. They can have all these like generic, general conversations. Can they talk anything that is not material fact? Correct. They cannot. And that's okay. When somebody starts asking questions like that, that is a fantastic question. Oh, it looks like Arlene is just finishing up with those clients. So give me just a moment. Let's chat a little bit more, and then I'll have you go connect with Arlene. Right? It's those kind of moments where they can talk, build rapport, and then hand over the conversation to you. Okay? That's what that looks like. When you bring somebody who's not a real estate agent, they can still help you, still support you. One of our agents in the office, he brings one of his best friends to open houses, and that friend walks people through, and yet whenever they have real estate questions, they hand them off. The other thing, if you're going to do open houses with another agent, make sure you set expectations. Hey, who's getting what leads? The easiest way is every other. I get person A, you get person B. I get person A, you get person B. When you think in abundance, you're going to have enough business for both of you. If you get one person from an open house, well, just note the next open house, then whoever got that one person, the other person gets to that first person that comes through. Working together to grow our businesses, right? We're not there to steal from each other. We're there to help each other grow. Also, when we do door knocking, like we talked before, I always recommend go up to the door with two people. One person's the knocker. The other person just kind of stands back to help the conversation flow if they see an opportunity to pump up their colleague. So for example, if Sierra and I are standing at the door, Sierra's knocking and I hear an opportunity and Sierra's talking to them, doing a great job, and all of a sudden I hear an opportunity, I'll be like, oh, Sierra's so good at that. Or Sierra's one of the best agents I know. You should absolutely be working with them. What sounds better? I am one of the best agents I know. Or, oh, Bowtie Ben is such a great agent. Right? It sounds better coming from somebody else. When it comes from you, it just sounds like you're conceited. And, we already know we're awesome. And yet, having it say from somebody else, if we build each other up in that moment, it helps the conversation flow. And then, once again, we're working in abundance. So if I knock till I talk to a person, and then Cassie, she knocks until she talks to a person. We switch door to door to door until we've hit 25 doors. The other way to look at the doors option is you can do it in two different ways. Knock till I hit 25 doors, or knock till I personally hand out 25 flyers. Those are two very different days, though. 25 doors doesn't mean I'm talking to 25 people. Handing out 25 flyers means that I'm talking to 25 people. So that means I will either knock 25 doors, or maybe it means I knocked 500 doors. I don't know. Two very different days, but you get to decide on your door knocking day what that looks like. Does that make sense? Working together with somebody helps with safety, and it also helps with walking people through. Walking people through is the best way to build rapport, in my opinion. Okay? What questions do you have about the signing in as well as walking people through. You will hear other agents have different opinions on this, and you can just know that they're wrong. Their opinion is wrong. Ben's opinion is right. The only way. Okay? We're there to build our business, right? We're there to build relationships. We want to work with people. Now, the next thing is there's a question that we should ask every single person before they leave the open house. And it's a really simple question. What do you think it is?
Do you know anybody who has a real estate goal?
I love that question. Do you know anybody who has a real estate goal? It's a great question. It's not the biggest question. What do you think?
I was just gonna say, give them your card, but that's not really asking, that's just like, hey,
I like that, giving them your information. That's great. And it's not a question. What do you think is the most important question to ask somebody before they leave? You finished your tour, you're going to ask them one simple question. It's real simple. Do you want to buy this house?
give me that. Yeah.
It's a real simple question. Now, and here's what's crazy. What a simple question, and it doesn't even have to be salesy. I can walk up to him and be like, so Sierra, what do you think? Do you want to buy this house? Or hey, we finished the tour. So what you thinking? You want to buy this house? They're with their agent. So, if they walk through with their agent, that does happen. And even if somebody has an agent, make sure to have that agent sign in. What's the value of getting an agent's number from an open house?
You get to ask them if they want you to do another.
Great, absolutely. You could ask them if they want you to do one for them. What's another great reason to get an agent's information at an open house? Potentially referrals, or even just building relationships with ones you might do business with. What else? As long as you're with Keller Williams, if you hand their number to me or your team leader, we can connect with them, try and help them build their business even bigger, and they go into your downline. You can start building profit share. So agents, I make them sign in as well. And if they don't want to sign in, I ask for a card. Hey, I just need you to give me a card and I can let you walk through. And you can blame it on your broker. You can blame it on say, hey, actually, it's just something my broker started requiring us. So if you could just sign in with your agent's name and phone number, that'd be great. You're not going to make the agent's clients sign in if they're walking through with their agent, right? We're not doing that. And yet, agents are still a great opportunity. Now, do you want to buy this house? It's just an opening question. What do you think that probably 90% of people say? Yeah, they say no. And the follow-up is, this is where the sale happens. So they say, no. Do you want to buy this house? Well, no. Great. So let me ask you this. What would you change about this house that make you want to buy it? Well, I guess I wish it had a bigger kitchen. It was a little bit small. It was a little too big. It was X, Y, Z. And then I say, okay, great. Well, and then let me ask you this. If I could find you a house that, insert what they just said, that has that, is that something you'd want to talk more about? Yes, no. If they say yes, great. What are you doing today at 2 o'clock? My open house is done at 2. Well, and go and try and set that appointment. People act on emotion more than logic makes you think. Emotion makes you act. You've got them there in the emotion right in that moment. And if you can get them right there in that moment, you can get more appointments right then and there. Hey, let's meet today. Oh, you can't meet today? Great. What are you doing Monday at 5, or would maybe Tuesday at 6 work better for you? Oh, you're interested in something bigger? Well, that's great, because I actually have a showing scheduled for a property that's right next door or in this neighborhood that's a little bit bigger than this one. What are you doing about 2:15 when I finish up here? I can show it to you. Now, if they say no, great. Out of curiosity, can you tell me a little bit about what you're looking for in your next house? Dig a little bit deeper, dig. See if you can still schedule that appointment, and maybe not. Maybe they're just a future buyer. Great, you're a future buyer. Well, what I'd love to do is maybe connect with you in the next 2 to 3 months and see how we can help you in that home search. What if I'm a neighbor? Well, no, I don't want to buy it. I'm a neighbor. Great. So let me ask you, what would you change about this house that make you want to sell your house and buy this one? Well, I guess blah, 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 blah. Wait, hey, what if I found you something like that? Would you be interested in selling your house and getting into something like that? Maybe. Now, the other crazy thing is what happens if they say yes? Because it does happen. So the first thing that happens when they say yes is you turn around and you go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, great. And then I usually follow up with, great, have you already signed an agreement with a great agent? Not, do you have an agent? How many people know an agent? Everybody knows an agent, even though they don't realize it. So, hey, do you have an agent? Oh, yeah, I do. My cousin's sister's uncle's pet rock is an agent. Right? Have you already signed? That word is key. Because they may even have an agent, but they haven't signed. So let's just say they say yes. And I'll give you a great example of this. That 175 person open house that I did, I asked somebody going through, hey, so what do you think? Do you want to buy this house? And he said, yes. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Great. Well, have you already signed with a great agent? Well, no, I mean, I've been looking at some houses with this agent. Okay, but have you already signed anything? No. Fantastic. My open house is done at 2. What are you doing at 2:30? Well, I'm not 100% sure my pre-approval will work for this house. Great. Do you already have a lender that you're speaking with or that you really like, or can I have my lender give you a call? Oh, yeah, you can have your lender give me a call. Fantastic. 2.5 hours later, met him at my office, which was just down the road. We did a full buyer's appointment, got them signed. We made sure they were pre-approved, and then they were under contract 2.5 hours later because they said yes. They had an agent. They hadn't been signed. We're not going to sign cross, right? That's against the rules. And yet, agents don't sign their buyers. If you don't sign your buyer, there's nothing to cross, right? So, also, if you're going to take anything away from this, sign your buyers. It protects their rights and it protects yours. Do you want to buy this house? Was the most game-changing question. And it's so simple. What do you think? Do you want to buy this house? Yep. What questions do you have about do you want to buy this house? Or anything that follows? Okay, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. So, what are we bringing with us to an open house? First off, food and drink. Why are they at the open house? Why are people coming to your open house, I should ask? That's okay, I didn't ask the right question. Why are people coming to the open?
You want to see the inside?
They want to see the house.
Mm-hmm.
Are they there because I have the prettiest cookies and snacks and drinks and lemonade? No. Nobody has ever gone to an open house because they said, oh, I want to go eat. I'm ready for some lunch. I mean, maybe some, but very rare. Here's what I'll tell you. When I first did an open house, people were like, you have to have cookies, you got to have lemonade, you got to have water. So for my first 6 months, I bought a thing of cookie dough for every open house. I used half of it for an open house, and I made a thing of lemonade. And then I gained 15 pounds because I ate it all. Okay? They're not there for your snacks. They're there because they want to see the open house. Don't bring it. Don't waste your money. If you feel like you need to have something, buy a bag of candy, put it in a bowl, buy some bottles of water. But once again, they're really not there. Doesn't matter what the temperature is outside. Doesn't mean they're going to like your house any less. Now, hopefully that house has AC. If it doesn't, that's a little bit of a bummer. There are ways around that. I've done those. It's fine. You don't need it. Don't waste your money. If you really feel like you need it, okay, great. You can do it. And then you'll learn after you gain your 5-10 pounds that you're the only one that eats it. And the kids. And then the kids make a mess. Okay? Next, branded MLS sheets. One of the nice things is you can print out one-page reports that have your information on the top. Print out 10, 15, 20 of those. Probably start out with 10. And if you learn after a while that 10 is too much or not enough, great, you can print out more. Start out small. The next one is you're going to bring one copy of the houses that you've scheduled showings for. You're not going to give that one away. You're going to dangle that, the carrot, in front of you. Hey, great, here, take a look. Fantastic. This is the house that I can show you right after the open house. Okay. Next one, neighborhood snapshots. It's a really cool feature that you can get through command or even just the neighborhood that through your agent websites. One of the things that you can request through your marketing materials in our office is a neighborhood snapshot. Yep. Home buying selling guides is a really nice thing to hand out. Oh, you've never bought a house before? Here, great. I've got this amazing little document that talks about the process of buying. Oh, you've never sold? Well, here talks about the process of selling, and it's got my information on it. It's a great resource. And that's essentially your buyer seller presentation, just in a little packet. Yep. Music. I used to have a thing that would pop up here, but it never played when I wanted it to. So one of the ideas that I really like is a group called Postmodern Jukebox. And what they do is they take your popular songs and they turn them jazzy, swingy, think like 20s style. One of my favorites, is anybody here familiar with the song Anaconda by Nicki Minaj? Well, you start listening to it and I want you to put that, but now put banjos and make it 20s style. My anaconda don't want, not unless you got buns, hun. Then the fun thing is they make it clean, right? Buns, hun is not dirty with just in that sense. Talking about hamburgers, of course, right? Hot dogs and hamburgers. Yeah. At the same time, they keep it clean. And it's really fun because have you ever been in a store and they're playing classical music, but it's like popular songs, kind of like what's that TV show that everyone really likes and it's got the violin music? It's that's okay. Doesn't matter. Anyway, it's really fun to watch this. As you're walking somebody through the house and music is playing and you watch them do the why do I know this song? And then it clicks that it's a cover. And it's really fun to watch, but it's a great group. Sometimes jazz, sometimes classical. For jazz, I have a recommendation on Spotify. It's a playlist called Coffee Shop Jazz. Great playlist with some great things. At the end of the day, bring something, right? Unless you're not a music person, which, okay, that's fine. You know, you're probably dead inside. And yet, at the same, I love, it's nice to have fill the dead air, right? And if you don't want to do any of those, yeah, play whatever you want. I do recommend clean, but it's your business, your brand. You get to decide what you want, but remember how you show up there is how they're going to see you. Okay. One other thing that is not on this slide, and yet I've started talking about is how you dress. And once again, you do get to decide your brand. You get to decide how you want to dress. I come wearing jeans. I wear these shoes because I've learned that I want to be able to slip off shoes really easily. I wear jeans and I wear a button up and a bow tie. I mean, you can't be bow tie done without a bow tie, which is why I committed to the bit a few years ago. And I say a few years ago, more like 6 months ago. That's besides the point. So how you dress is important, right? If I come wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, well, I'm probably going to attract a very specific type of buyer, and I might exclude other people because they might not see me as professional. So here's what I recommend. Business casual is my general recommendation for any open house or visual lead generation activity you do. If you're in the office calling, great, wear sweatpants, I don't care, right? We're fine. And yet, a lot of times I find that when you dress good, you feel good, right? And how people see you is important. People do judge your appearance, right? Decide how you want to appear and just make sure you are showing up that way. Does that make sense? Great. So before we move into the plan, what questions do you have about everything that happens during the day? Okay, good. Just make sure this is still on. Yeah, y'all are too easy on me. Okay, first thing, if it is not your listing, you better call that agent whose house you had with feedback once you're done. Maybe it's not immediately, but within the next hour, half an hour, call them. How did it go? How many people came through? What were comments that you heard? What did people tell you? When you ask, do you want to buy this house? What are you going to get? You're going to get feedback as well. Why don't you like this? Well, people felt it was priced too high. People didn't like the kitchen. They thought it was outdated. It smelled like cat pee. I've got a fun story on that one. That feedback is incredibly important because maybe they've been trying to tell their seller that, excuse me, they've been trying to tell their seller these different things, but sometimes if you hear it from somebody else, you'll actually hear it. And so they can say, hey client, this is what I've been hearing a lot from other agents. I think we should really do this. The client will probably, or may be more likely to listen. So it's very helpful. The next thing, you got to add your new leads to command. And honestly, it shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes. So if you have the ability to, while you're at the open house, depending on what you have as far as data, do it right then and there. Guess what? We all should have the Command mobile app. You can put all of them into your Command mobile app right there. Take 20 to 30 minutes, put them into your Command, and you're going to tag them. That is going to be the most important part, because how are we following up on these people if we don't have them into our database? If it's just on a sheet, sheets get lost, right? Next thing, put them on smart plans. And there's a really easy way to do that. Smart plans have these things called triggers, and the triggers happen by tagging. So we want to put them on open house follow-up, as well as the neighborhood snapshot, the bi-weekly or monthly neighborhood nurtures. 2 fantastic smart plans, and we have it by information that we get from the people that are signing in. When people are signing in, I want 5 pieces of information. No, 4, sorry. Name, phone number, email, and address. I have found that somebody is more willing to give me their address than their email. Great. I can go door knock that person. I can do other things that I'll talk about in a little bit. And yet, an address is still a great point of contact. And if I don't have their address, that's okay. The address I'll use for the snapshot is the address of the open house. Okay? Next thing, we want to tag them. Oops, that was the wrong direction. So we're going to call everyone who came through. I would recommend calling them on either the next day or the next business day, thanking them for coming through. We're going to do what's called our LP Mama, and it stands for location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, and appointment. We're going to go through that script in a later day. And yet, LP Mama is a fantastic script to talk and utilize with the people coming through that were buyers. Anybody who was a potential seller, well, that conversation is going to look a little bit different, right? Talk to them about their needs, their wants, thank them. We're going to write a thank you card. We have their address. I want you to think, you go through an open house. 5 to 7 days later, you get a letter in the mail. It's handwritten. And it says, hey, thank you so much for coming to my open house, Cassie, Sierra, Arlene. I really appreciated getting to meet you, learning about your needs, your wants, whatever. And if you need anything real estate related, give me a call. Here's my business card. Obviously, you know their intent, but how would that make you feel? Yeah, most people it feels really good. It's an easy card to write. You're also going to tag these people. I don't think this bullet point is on there. So make sure you're tagging them. And here's what I recommend for tags. Tag them with open house, as well as I do recommend tagging them with maybe the address or some kind of key term. If you know they're a future buyer, maybe do FB. If you know now buyer, now, well, FB I might get confused with Facebook, so maybe do future buyer. You can tag them with however you know that they are for you. This is going to help you track your database, help you systematically follow up. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. You can text them with a link to your personal mobile app. This smart plan will also do that. Okay? So first off, as far as our follow-up and pretty much everything that happens after, what questions do you have? Here's something I'm going to say about open houses. If an open house went great for you, see if you can do it again there until it closes, until it gets under contract. My favorite open house I ever did, and this actually wasn't the one that got 175 people, but the best one I did, I actually held this house open 12, 13 times. It actually never sold. The property expired. It never sold. And yet every open house I got, I'd get like 5 to 10 people into my database. I closed 6 or 7 people from that open house, just doing it over the year. So if you find one that works really well, do it again and again. All that does is you're door knocking every time, so you're staying in front of those neighbors, you're staying out there, people are gonna be like, oh, you're here again, it hasn't sold? Yeah, I don't know. That agent, I guess they didn't sell it, I don't know what's going on there, but I'm here to help try and get it sold, and I'm also helping other clients, and this is what I would do if I listed your house, right? All of this is truly key, right? Remember, this is the substance. The day of, even just during, that's the frosting. It's important, and you're not having a good cake without frosting, but you also need your substance. So I want to talk about the importance of follow-up. I've got a little story. My very first open house I did, it was in my first week of real estate. This was my first kind of big boy job outside of college. And we call it a fluke because over a 2-day period, we had 250 people come through this open house. Not sure how. We had one open house sign, maybe two. And it was insane. I've never seen something like this since. I've gotten close. 175 is pretty good. And yet, what happened was I ended up with all of the leads. I was scared. I wasn't confident. I didn't have somebody pushing me to follow up, and so I didn't until about a month later. So a month later, I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to call them. Got my LP mama. I call them, hey, this is Ben Grodsky. It was pre-bow tie Ben. That was probably the other issue, right? Hey, this is Ben Grodsky with the real estate team I was on. And I met you at my open house a month ago. Just wanted to see if you found that perfect home or if you were still looking. Oh, Ben, thank you so much for calling. It's very sweet of you. I'm so sorry to tell you, though. I actually just bought. Oh, Ben, I'm so sorry. I'm actually under contract. There were 10 people who were unrepresented that I called that I either bought or were under contract because I didn't follow up. And we're going to add a little pain to this. So there were 10 people. Average commission at that time was $9,000. So in my first week of real estate, I lost it on $90,000. I was on a team, so actually I lost it on 45. But in my first week of real estate, I lost it on $45,000 or $90,000. That hurt anybody else? So if you don't take anything else from this, follow-up is the second most important thing. First is actually doing the initial activity, but if you don't follow up, you're wasting your time at open houses and all of your other lead generation activities. If you don't follow up, you're going to end up just like I did, and you're going to lose out on this. Well, Ben, I don't want to be pushy. Ben, I don't want to bother them. So here's the difference. The difference between pushy and persistent is your intention. I'm going to follow up with them to at least get one conversation, and then I can decide my continual follow-ups depending on that conversation. But I'm going to keep following up because if I don't, somebody else will, and they'll buy with them or they'll sell with them. You have to follow up. And it's got to be that Monday afterwards. You didn't connect with them? Well, probably that Wednesday afterwards, that Friday afterwards. It's really, really heavily follow up on the front side. And then as you start to slowly maybe not get in touch with them, you change it from 3 times to 1 times to 1 time a week to every other week to once a month to once a quarter, right? You're going to touch base with them, or else you're going to just end up just like I did in my first week. I mean, would $90,000 change anybody else? Yeah. So don't forget to follow up. So I have you put them in your database that day, and then follow up either the next day or the next business day. Guess what? It means you're probably doing your follow-up in the evening, or you're doing it in the morning. But you have to follow up if you're doing open houses or really any kind of lead gen. Doesn't matter if you're calling your sphere, if you're calling the expireds, wherever, you have to follow up. Does this make sense? Now, one of the things I said at the beginning of this class, you remember what this class is called? How to make 100K through open houses. So we've talked about the economic model, and the economic model shows you exactly how that works. So let's talk about it. Well, I said let's talk about it. We'll see if it works. There we go. How are we making 100K? So what did I say? How many people do I want to add to my database for every open house? I'd love to. What's the goal? How many people to my database? Less.
Is it 2?
It's 2. Thank you, Cassie. It's 2 people to my open house. Now, the idea for this is a model. And this model talks about doing 2 open houses a week. Okay? So if I'm doing 2 open houses a week, that means I'm doing 8 open houses a month. If I'm doing 8 open houses a month, that means I should be adding 16 leads times 12 months. Means I get about 192 leads times about 5%, because they say you should be able to convert about 5% of your database over the year. Can I have 9.6 closings? Not a trick question. No, you cannot have 0.6 of a closing. So you have to round up. So I've got 10 closings. Our average commission is about $12,000. 10 closings times 12,000, 120,000. It's right there in the numbers. I didn't make this up. This is actually based off of a team who every new expansion team they open up across the country, they follow this model. 2 leads, 8 open houses, 12 months, 100,000. They're following up and they're creating future business, right? Just because they meet me at the open house may mean they're buying today or might mean they're buying 9 months from today. That's okay. 9 months from today still helps me get 100,000 this year. Okay, well, I know I want to double that. Okay, what would it look like if I want to make more than that? Well, I either need to up my signs, up my activities, or up my open houses. I had an agent. She once said, okay, Ben, well, I'm going to do an open house every single day of the month for 1 month, and I'm just going to see what happens. It worked out really well for her. Yeah, she did 31 open houses in 1 month. She was very tired at the end of it. That's not a long-term strategy, because you'll just burn yourself out. And yet, she got a lot of people into her database. The rest of that year was really just following up people from that 1 month. It's doable. This is based off of real numbers. So remember, it's a plan. Start where you can and start to follow the systems. Once again, if your choice is to do part of the plan or not do an open house, start with part. If I can't do 20, can I do 1 open house sign? Great, can I grow that to 3? Am I willing to do a little bit more to get more people? It depends on what's the time I have to develop this. And yet following the plan will help you see success quicker. So, what questions do you have about open houses? Okay. Well, if you think of any, reach out to me. And otherwise, I appreciate all of you for being here, for listening to our class. I'm going to stop recording.